hurt and what's happening with Black folk today. We are a YouTube podcast series focusing on the emotional, mental, physical, financial, and spiritual well being of Black people around the world. We seek to create a safe, uncensored space for Black folk to talk, process, share, and learn together.
Each week, we will also highlight a missing person or unsolved murder case involving a person of color.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Daphne.
Let's speak on it. Hey y'all, I wanted to come to you real quick before we really get into the conversation and let you know that the conversation got so good, we decided to break it up into 2 parts for you. So part 2 will be coming out real soon. Next, I made a little faux pas, so you won't be able to see Daphne and I during the video conversation, but these gentlemen are so handsome, I don't think you'll mind. My production assistant is getting me right. Now, Daphne told you that we are going to focus on a missing or cold case featuring a person of color each week. I wanted to start out by telling you about an interesting anomaly that I have found regarding the state of Oklahoma and missing Black children. I want to give you some context. I picked 4 states to compare. In the state of Illinois, Black folk make up 14% of the population. There are currently 16 open cases of Black teens, that's between the ages of 12 and 17, missing in the state of Illinois. 16 children missing in the state of Illinois since 2015. That makes up about 21% of the missing children cases. So in Missouri, Blacks make up about 12% of the population. 9 Black teens are currently missing since 2015. That makes up 17% of the children's missing cases. Finally, in California, we make up 6.5% of the population, and currently there are 60 open cases of Black teens missing since 2015. That's 12% of the missing children. So 21%, 17%, 12%. Now here is the problem with Oklahoma. Blacks make up 7.8% of the population. There are currently 74 open cases of missing Black teens since 2015 in that state. That's Blacks making up an incredible 40% of the children missing in Oklahoma. 21, 17, 12, and 40. 40%. But hold up. Wait a minute. That's not the problem. What seems to be getting very little attention is that 38 of those Black teens have gone missing this year, since January. Yes, you heard that right. 38 Black children between the ages of 12 and 17 have gone missing in less than 5 months in the state of Oklahoma. Maybe it's just me, but that's unacceptable. I want you guys to help me figure out what's going on. Okay, so I want to welcome everybody to Black Bodies podcast, and we have some guests with us today who we are going to be discussing some relevant, timely things that are going on today. So I want to give everyone a little bit of a chance to introduce themselves. If you'll just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what you do, what you care to share. If you want to promote anything, feel free to promote. So I'm going to start with Ricky. Go right ahead.
Well, first of all, I trust that everyone is practicing social distancing and everyone is safe, your family is safe. And thank you, Ryan and Daphne, for inviting me to this podcast. I really appreciate the opportunity. My name is Ricky Cannon, and I am born and raised in Peoria, Illinois, moved to St. Louis in 1986. Long story short, I did spend some time on the East Coast in Philadelphia, and I worked between New York City and Washington, D.C. I'm been in retail management for about roughly 30 years. It's kind of what I do in terms of my profession. I kind of know the business inside and out after all those years. I've got a lot of ups and a few downs, but I'm still here, and I've got loads of experience, and I'm excited to share some of it with you all.
Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you taking that time out of the day and being here with us. Next, I'm gonna let Denai. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you are?
Sure, yes. Hello, everyone. So my name is, excuse me, is Danai Wilde Gabriel. I was born in Ethiopia and grew up in Oakland, California, and educated, then employed in Santa Cruz, California. Thank you all for having me. I'm definitely excited to be here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I guess people can find me on social media
Yeah, go ahead.
at Danai the Great on Instagram. Danay the Great. That'd be me.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thanks.
All right, Aaron, how about you? Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Aaron Jones. Got to put that doctor in there. And I am originally from LA, Los Angeles, California, born and raised, and educated in the UC system, and then got my doctorate at a private university. I've lived in Riverside, California, in the Inland Empire desert hot area, and then I took my talents to Hawaii and lived in Honolulu, Hawaii for some years, and in Santa Cruz as well. And I'll just say I'm an educator. My hope is to kind of support folks through the educational system, particularly folks with marginalized identities, and I do that in a variety of ways as an administrator at UC Santa Cruz. And I think that something else I want to mention as well is that I'm a Black nerd. That I am proud to say that I enjoy lots of TV and film and comic books and all sorts of books and novels of various genres, and I try to use that in the work that I get to do as well. And I have a podcast on that very topic. It's called Blurred Grounds, so Black Nerd, Blurred Grounds, BLERD Grounds. You can find that on anywhere you can listen to podcasts except for SoundCloud. We're just not, messing with SoundCloud. So that's Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Google Play, all the places. Blurred Ground.
All the things.
All the things. Thank you.
Awesome. And we'll be sure to drop
Share.
everybody's contact info in the details also. Last but certainly not least is Jacoby. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. Well, like she said, my name is Jacoby Ehadrika. I know it's a mouthful. You can just call me Jacoby. Actually born in California, raised in Central Illinois. Now I stay in Chicago. So that's pretty fun. Been working at an educational institution for about 7-8 years. Heavy in marketing, business development. Just got a passion for business, period. Just kind of got the entrepreneurial spirit. I like music. Started a clothing line. I guess I should mention that since I have it on. Just a freshman. You can actually look us up on social media at Just a Freshman, no E. Don't forget to drop the E. Other than that, I think that's all. My intro's not as exciting.
I appreciate you all for being here. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for coming, guys.
Our goal was to really try to get a cross section of, experiences and a range of what it might be like to be a Black man in this country. So we're not gonna mince words. We'll jump into it. My goal here is not to necessarily rehash what happened. I'm not gonna go into the details. We all know about the Arbery case. People can do their research wherever they need to. I'm not going to debate what happened, what didn't happen. For me, this is about what the impact is for us as a community and what your experiences have been like. So I guess my first question, and I'll let you guys take turns going around. We'll start with you, Ricky. I'm going to call you Dad. It's hard for me to call you Ricky. So actually, no, I'll let Daphne go. Yeah,
sure. When you hear about cases like Ahmaud Arbery, what goes through your mind?
Well, for me, it's a reminder that there are still a lot of issues, a lot of problems out there in this world today. And it's not far removed from what was going on in the 50s and the 60s, to be quite honest with you. I just think that it's um, magnified a lot more today because you have your cable news stations, you have your social media, and now we have everyone has a camera phone, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that way it gets put out in the forefront, and no longer is it hiding under covers. You know, I'm talking about uh, the racial prejudices that are out there. And then of course, we have government, and the current government we have right now kind of, you know, encourages, you
Mm-hmm.
know, these types of behaviors. And it's a scary time right now. And that's why we need to make sure that we all get out and make sure that not only that you all vote, but you got to get your friends, you know, and get their friends to get out and vote to make a change, because that's the only way it's going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So that's my take on it in a nutshell. It is a very, very scary time right now.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Danai?
Well, yeah, I would definitely echo that as well. I think it's real. What I got for this is I get reminded of our reality. When I say our reality, I'm focusing on being Black. Our reality is different from many others, and it saddens me to think that there's things like this happening in this country, right? The great U.S. When we've been taught that we're moving towards change, we're looking for change, but yet there's nothing that's really changed. The system is rooted very deeply within what we see. So part of me is glad to see this being exposed, coming to the forefront, because we know this reality, we've known this reality, but now for the rest of the world to kind of start catching up and actually starting to see and hear and feel the pain, is necessary. Because I don't know, I feel like a lot of times, even personally, like I feel bad that like I have to take into consideration of my identity and a lot of decision makings or a lot of other things when others can't put it together, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
either like I feel like I'm making an excuse for myself or I'm trying to give myself a pass, but really it is the reality that I live in, and to get someone else to understand it or hear it out is always kind of difficult. So it's nice to kind of have it be out there and the world actually seeing it. But the fact that it's continuing to happen, it definitely is saddening. Like it's difficult to bear because that could be me, like that's hard to think of.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Jacoby?
I took a couple things from it. Number one, just kind of, it's a reminder how deep, kind of like how the cards are stacked against us. Because if you look at it and you see how, these individuals were not charged or anything for months, and they had the DA on the side, and it really just kind of makes you think, how deep the change has to go for us to actually see some results. And it's just a reminder. And then, it's just kind of, it makes me think like, okay, what can we do to change that? How do you change the DA? Obviously you got the voting, but how do you get our people out to vote, to change these people that are in these positions that have this much power that can, you can literally get away with murder whenever you want to if you don't have it on camera, pretty much. And obviously we know that's probably been going on for a while now. So that's one thing I took from it. The other thing I took from it, which it just seems like every time we're put in a situation where we're killed, I'm always seeing people reach for a reason that it's our fault that we died. Whereas if it's anybody else, you know, they're kind of perceived as the victim, and, you know, it's not treated the same. So it's kind of, you know, that another reminder of just how we're just not looked at the same. I don't think our lives are valued the same. And, you know, you kind of almost have to become numb to it. Unfortunately, you shouldn't become numb to anybody's death. But when you constantly continue to see this stuff, if you don't have a certain numbness to it, it'll drive you nuts. And it'll make you angry all the time. So it just kind of just, you know, just a bunch of reminders, just continue with reminders.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Aaron?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with all that's already been shared. Especially, you know, I'm feeling the same way on a lot of those fronts. But definitely one of the first things that I thought of when I heard about it was, one, I was angry, not just at it happening, but angry that I heard about it 2 months after it happened. I was not surprised because it's unfortunate that something so horrific and ridiculous can happen, and I'm not surprised by it because of what, you know, has already been mentioned, that our history is deeply embedded in the history of our country, and it is something that is passed on from father to son to, you know, to their children, and on and on. It's in our history books. It is in, you know, the systems and structures that we, you know, to some extent enjoy. And the law that we think is here to protect us does not. And it's just a reminder of the lack of safety and security that we have within our bodies. And the inability for any level of education to protect us, because we don't wear our degrees when we're jogging in the morning. You know, it's something that we, you know, we just carry our black skin, and when we show up with it, it is seen as a threat. It is seen as criminal. It is seen as a problem, and it's so ridiculous to me, and it's almost comical, because I was just thinking, like, who just jogs around, you know, to rob things. You know, you don't have a car. You don't have a bag. You don't have anything to keep the thing that you're trying to steal. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
How you could make those intellectual leaps to say, you know, you know, must be out to try to steal things. Like, how is he going to get away?
Yeah.
And as well, I just, you know, I think, yes, voting, yes, let's, you know, try to, you know, combat the system. Let's fill the system with people that can make better decisions and can think to how we can make things more fair. But it is definitely, as Jacoby mentioned, it's deeper. Like, we have to penetrate people's actual minds. We need to educate people in a way that takes into account all the different perspectives that exist, and how everybody deserves to be looked at and thought of as human. And that our lives, whether we're criminals or not, I go so far as to say that whether he was involved in or a part of a criminal activity, that does not mean that you have the authority to take away that person's life in the field.
Absolutely. Yep.
That he just, you know, this man and his son, like I mentioned earlier, that is passed down. Him and his son just, you know, got their shotgun and became Judge Dredd, the judge, jury, and executioner.
Yeah. Bypass the whole legal system.
So it's frustrating. It's not surprising, but, you know.
Come on. Were you done? I was gonna say,
yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Aaron.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Jump in.
What these gentlemen are saying. One of the things that I'm taking away from this, it just got me to thinking. I watched a documentary on Quincy Jones and one on Miles Davis.
Mm.
And the thing that tied these two together was at one point in their careers, they both ended up going over to France.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about how well they were
Mm-hmm.
treated, so much so these guys didn't even want to come back to the United States. They dreaded it because they weren't privy to the same privileges as some of the other accomplished musicians that were out there, making a name for themselves. And you got to really think about that. How deep is that, you come back to the States. Well, we're kind of culturally conditioned to think that the white is superior and black is inferior. That's got to change. That mindset has to change.
Yeah.
And like Jacoby, I believe it was Jacoby said this, or Aaron, you talked about education. Boy, that's the new currency, more than money. It's all about education. And without that, we're going to be in a world of hurt as a people. Until then, we're going to continue to be underestimated. You walk in a room, they got a perceived perception about who they think you are.
Absolutely.
I can go to a car dealership in a sweatshirt, a hoodie, and a pair of jeans, and I get treated a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But if I just get off work and I have a decent suit on, it's like, oh, hi, hey, how can I help you? It's that perception, and we've got to be able to change that. And it starts with our young ones. It really does. So it's exciting to see all of you all, you young folk, participating in something like this, and I think that this could possibly grow, where we can influence others, to come in and join in on these types of conversations, because they need to be had.
Sure.
They need to be had.
It is like exactly what you're saying, Ricky. Like that was exactly my experience. I went to, as a part of my program, my doctoral program, we went to London. So we spent a week in London to kind of learn about their system of education in comparison to ours. And there's a lot of things that we can learn from them that we're not. But like I think about my experience of just kind of like walking around and going to certain places with my core group and by myself. But I felt, and people told me like, hey, chill, that's just London, because London's an international city, so it's a little bit more progressive and better than the rest of the country. But I felt I didn't feel unsafe. But that's how, to some extent, I walk around here, around my own neighborhood, that I don't feel safe walking around. But me being in this completely different country, thousands of miles away, in an unfamiliar place, I walked through the park, I walked down the street. I was in Hyde Park, which is this big, huge park in London, and I'm looking at the statues, I'm walking around, and nobody's looking at me. Like, they're not paying attention to me. They're not watching me to see what I'm doing there, or why I'm walking around, why I have this backpack. No one's concerned. And that was weird. It was weird for people not to be concerned.
Yeah.
We went to various museums. We went to the Victorian Albert Museum. We went to the Tate Modern, museum. And I was walking around just living my best life, like not really worried about anything.
Yeah.
I have literally never anywhere in the United States felt that way.
Wow.
Sometimes in Hawaii, because Hawaii is pretty dope,
Yeah.
and really, really diverse. But anywhere else in the United States, all the cities and states that I've been, never ever felt that way.
That is, I'm gonna ask this question because I want to ask about your experiences where you felt safe, when you haven't felt safe, in general, just walking around, but also in terms of police reactions. But I also had the same experience when I was in London. People were just amazingly kind and gracious, and like, you know, I felt, number one, there was just people of all kinds walking around, so it's hard to stick out, number one. And then once they found out I was American, people were just like all about it, and, you know, were crazy. And God, they wanted to talk about Trump. I'm like, I do not want to talk about that. I came to this country not to talk about politics. Right. So yeah, that was my experience too. Jacoby, you've traveled a lot. You've been a lot of places. What's been your experience walking around as a Black man, feeling comfortable or not feeling comfortable?
My similar experience with that was when I actually went to Poland. It was completely different from America because, and I mean, over there, you see mostly white people there. And I stuck out like a sore thumb, and the 5 other Black people that were there stuck out too. But like you said, it didn't feel like people were looking at me weird. It didn't feel like I was being judged. It didn't feel like people were trying to stay away from me or unsafe. They just kind of treated me like I was another person. And, like you said, even the American thing, like they love us in certain places. Even like when we went out to the bars, everybody's buying us drinks and I have no clue why they but yeah, it's definitely, it's different other places than here. And granted, there's racism everywhere. I'm pretty sure there's probably some person of color there that probably has a whole completely opposite story from me.
Right.
That initial reaction is different than what you get in America. It's just crazy seeing that.
Talk a little bit about your own kind of personal experiences in America with feeling safety or not feeling safety. Any experiences you've had either with police or just situations that you found yourself in?
Wow. What story can I lean on?
Pick one.
Well, like unsafe, like I think just a lot of us, like even in Illinois, there's certain towns like we won't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
We're hoping not to run out of gas, and just because you just don't know what can happen. That town is small. These towns are small. You know what it is there, and they can skew anything, anyway. Say you did anything, and you're lost. Nobody knows where you're at. So stuff like that, we just even 2020, I still won't stop in some of those towns just because that fear of not knowing what they're gonna do and being able to get away with it. And experience with cops. You've had it all. It's hands and toes, just being stopped for no reason, being harassed, being followed, being wrongfully arrested, getting no apology for it. The events are endless, man.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You just know that we're treated differently. We look different. You just know that if I'm white, I'm not getting treated the same way he's treated me. You just know that for a fact.
Yeah. How about you, Denai?
Man, I'm taking in a lot of this, to be honest, because y'all are speaking a lot of truth. To just, I guess, piggyback off some of the topic and the conversations that's been going on, I think for me, I will say over time, I'm learning myself, like, what it means to be Black, or like how Black is defined in America, if I had to rephrase that, because growing up until 12, I grew up in Ethiopia where everyone was Black, and so I didn't even consider myself Black. I'm Ethiopian. Everybody else looks like me. White people were just like, who are they, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like a new thing for us to run into white folks, and without knowing like anything. And to also add more context as to like Ethiopia is one of the only African countries, or that has never been colonized. Mm-hmm. So, we didn't really have a lot of influence. But coming here, I literally had to learn what who I was in context of being in
Mhm.
America.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
and so that was very interesting to me, and I think that's definitely something that I continue to evolve in and continue to learn about, because a lot of like these experiences are very relevant even to me, right? Now driving, I see a cop behind me, I'm always like, oh God, what are they gonna find now, you know, like,
Mhm.
because yeah, I've been pulled over for many random things, and luckily I didn't really get a lot of tickets, but you know that you could just tell they were,
Looking.
Mhm.
yes, just trying to find some things. And so when it comes to definitely safety, I'm always on edge, especially around like, and also just realizing the differences between people, right? Whether they're white or not. Like I think I've started to I've learned to identify the differences, those who are genuine and those who are fake about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
I used to be very open and accepting of everyone, but then started to realize and kind of
Mhm.
eliminate a lot of the fake personalities and behaviors over time, like the fake smiles when, you know, white folk would walk by you and give you that,
Yeah.
and then immediately their face goes back to like straight, and I was like,
Like,
yeah, like, and so I was like, man, like
Like I saw
that
that.
wasn't genuine, you know. I'm over here hyped, like a white person said hi to me, like, oh, but over time coming to realize they didn't mean this. That was actually coming out of fear. Like these people
Mhm.
really didn't trust me, so they felt that they had to smile at me to get by.
Mhm.
Going to grocery stores and actually observing people holding their bags like closer to them, and I'm like, man, like, so all these things apply, and I'm seen as black, and I had to learn like, oh, this is the reality, and
Mhm.
this is the description that I fit into, right?
Yeah.
And for me it's definitely been very, like, legit, it's sad to see humanity be that way, right? Where
Mhm.
it's, we're all human beings, but at the end of the day, like, to see that the hatred towards one group um is ridiculous to me, but yeah.
Yeah. How about Dad? You've had experience through different times in the U.S. We've been through different, administrations and times and changes. What have your experiences been like in terms of feeling safe being in the country?
I've really never really felt unsafe and in my younger years, and I say that because my dad was a cop.
Mm-hmm.
His brother was a cop.
Right.
One of his best friends ended up being the chief of police. So I always had that protection. And we always had I don't know, pretty close-knit family where,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people knew who we were to a degree. Um, but in my older years, and as recently as last year, I experienced a moment where I was coming home from work about 9 o'clock at night, 9:30. I have to make a left turn onto my street. As I'm making that left turn, there's a police car right there at the corner. He's got his brights on, checking folks out, right? He's
Mm-hmm.
just sitting there. So I make my left turn. And by the way, it was cold outside that day. I had my skull cap on, I'm all bundled up. So that guy's perception of me had to rub him the wrong way, because what that cop did, he made a right turn and I only had 1 block to go. He did a U-turn and came back around and he followed me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I live in a predominantly white neighborhood, and I believe he was thinking, what was I doing, in that neighborhood that time of night? I look like I might be up to something, um, and I rolled up into my driveway, into the garage, and I got out of my car. And at the back end of my car, I just kind of stood there because I saw the lights. I saw him coming up, and he rolled up slowly, and I just looked at him
Mm-hmm.
as he rolled by, and then I just walked away.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, his perception of me gave him, you know, pause or cause to turn around and follow me. You know, now we all know if that was a white person, everything would have been fine. He would have went to 7-Eleven and or Mr. Donuts and got him whatever he needed. You know, next call. However, you know, it was a reminder to me that, you know, this country, man, it's these stereotypes that they have for us is wrong, and it has to stop. It's got to stop. You know, and I can't stress voting. Not only just voting for the general election for your president, but you got to get involved in your local and municipal.
That's where we messed up last time.
You got to pull all the stops. You know, so that was the one incident that really stuck out in my mind in terms of either being harassed or unsafe. I never had a bad incident with a police officer where I felt unsafe. Now, I did have a police officer stop me for speeding about 2 weeks after this incident. And I was doing about 50 and a 35. And so I pulled over. He got out of the car. I was dressed for work. And I gave him my license. He asked me where I was going. I said I was going to work. And he said, should I give you a ticket for you know, speeding? Of course I said no. So he chuckled. He let me go. He gave my license back and asked me to be careful. And so I've had good experiences as well.
Me too.
There was some fair, decent, you know, police officers out there, but we all know there's some really crooked ones out there too. Just like down there in Georgia. Well, that guy that killed that young man was ex-cop, I believe.
Former police.
So, you know, there's both sides of the coin, but the bad definitely outweighs the good.
Definitely, what's next? This one?
Yeah, I just real quickly, like I've had a lot of weird situations with police. None, luckily, where you know I was myself hurt or you know arrested or anything like that. But I think just the feeling that you get when you're stopped, or the feeling you get when they're there in uniform and you know they do that thing where they put their hand on their gun. You know, just that. I don't know if I'll ever get over that feeling of you know, and working at universities where you know we work with the police and you know I've worked in like housing and I've had to call them or I've you know needed them and similar, like I've had good situations, I've had bad situations or annoying situations, you know, but even when they're cool, it's just kind of like I'm, you know, I have to, you know, take some breaths and I just have to, you know, not, you know, think about it too much. And I was, you know, raised around the time of the LA riots.
Right. Yeah.
That was a pretty impactful time. And I think where some of the fear and apprehension comes from is just that it was a mess. And I've, you know, moments sometimes when I think about it, like, you know, I still remember what it smelled like to like walk down the street and, you know, places where I used to get candy and chips were, you know, in flames. And it just felt like, you know, we were almost kind of like in a police state because they were riding around all the time. And it was just, that's something traumatic for, you know, 5 or 6 year olds to see and to live through. And so that's something that I definitely think about. And even, you know, there was even this instance where this was at UCR, UC Riverside, when, you know, I worked on campus, I worked in housing. I knew UC PD officers. They had helped me with situations and I worked with them pretty regularly. and I was sitting in a car waiting for a friend to come out of his apartment. And I had like my work shirt on, like I had a UCR. I'm on campus. I had a UCR shirt on, a polo, and these polos aren't cheap, so it had to be my work uniform. So I'm sitting in the car, and the officer comes up, and what are you doing, sir? Can I get some identification? I'm like, I'm sitting. I'm not even in the driver's seat. I don't drive. Part of the reason why I don't drive. And I was like, I work on campus. Like, I'm just waiting for somebody to come out of their apartment. Like, I'm chilling. Like, well, I just need to see your identification. Like,
Wow.
I work here. Like, this is so weird. And that snowballed into a
Mhm.
lot of things. And our police chief was black, so I called him directly. And so, like, it's just, those instances where, like, there's good, there's bad, there's,
Yeah.
the ugly, and it is not something that is just like, it's not an irrational fear, but it is something that is like can get your heart palpitating, because of the implications of what could happen, right?
Yeah. So that oh, go ahead.
My bad. Sorry. I wanted to add a couple of things to these because it reminded me of a couple of things. Okay, so let me think how I want to phrase this. So I think the media has a big role it plays in how we feel and how we perceive these things. And partly because I think it's deeply rooted, in terms of the stereotypes and how people view us outside of our race. I think it's very interesting to look back at it and say, oh man, like every time we hear something on the news or social media, it's always about like the negatives, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh, there's been a lot of robberies, or this person's been arrested for this or that, and this person's been killed for this. And what I think that does is that it that stereotype continues to live on to make it seem like we're constantly guilty,
Mm.
right? Like we're always the ones causing these problems, and then on the other hand, it also messes us individually up in a way where now we think that we're going to be the next victims,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
And so now we can't even live peacefully because like every experience that's been shared has come to that point of like we are connecting these particular experiences that we've seen in media to actually thinking that it could happen to us. Because I'm like, and I was in Atlanta last year, and I went for a soccer tournament, and it was a 12-passenger van. We're all in it, all black. We're all black in the van, and there's literally exactly 12 passengers in the van, and we're listening to music. It's a soccer team, so we're listening to music, we're vibing. It's nighttime, and we see a cop drive next to us, literally. And I remember the panic that every single person went into that moment. Like we were all legally driving,
Right. You weren't doing anything wrong.
yeah, but
Right.
in that moment, the music turned down
Mhm.
fast. We turned the
Mhm.
music down, and everybody sat up straight, and the energy, the atmosphere, everything just switched.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we were all like all of a sudden just sitting, honestly, just sitting straight, like we're not even talking to each other anymore.
Yeah.
And at that moment, honestly, it just put all these things together for me, and it was just so difficult because that's what we have to live with based on what we see on a
Mhm.
regular basis on the news. We don't want to, like we always say, we don't want to be the next victim, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And why do we have to live on edge like that?
Yeah.
Right? Because what is not being covered on these medias, on these platforms, is the success and the good things that we're doing as a collective to
Absolutely.
inspire, to motivate, right? So there's a big piece and a big chunk that's missing, and I feel like the media continues to just fuel this,
Yeah.
and and that we're always going to be under that, I feel, until we start, I think, to own some of these media platforms, media outlets, and until we start getting involved in the politics, right, when we start taking seat in these tables to make differences. And because, like we've all said and seen, there are good people, there are
Absolutely.
goods
Yeah.
throughout all this, but I think just systemically, it's embedded within, deeply rooted, that it takes more than the the ones that are in there. I think policy making and policy changing definitely needs to, I think, take place.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I'm wondering, because I feel like this is something that doesn't get addressed at all or very little. Like the mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being of Black men. And when things like this and the trauma happens, and the traumas that you all experience walking around, and the experience of running into the police and things like this in the media and the news, how do Black men process this, if any? Where, how, if that happens, or does it happen? I guess, Jacoby, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of just affects kind of how you carry out your day. Like, I know for me, just even when I step outside of the house, I'm just kind of on guard, like for anything. I'm in my car. I got to look and make sure there's not a cop behind me, because if I'm going 5 miles per hour above the speed limit, I'm gonna get stopped and it could lead to something else. Or if I'm anywhere, I'm just kind of just watching myself, making sure let me not bump into this lady, or bump into this man, or it might be perceived as a threat or something just that isn't what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to deal, unfortunately, with our people and our situation with that. So now you want to back with that.
Mm-hmm.
So you just it kind of feels like, you're kind of almost like mentally under attack at all times.
Mm-hmm.
You got to find different ways of protecting yourself, and just kind of staying sane through all of it. Because, unfortunately, it doesn't really have an end in sight. But yeah, it's taxing. I will say that. It's definitely taxing.
How do you manage your sanity?
Like I said, you become numb to it, and then you get used to it too. I'm get used to, all right, these people looking at me crazy, or they're moving away from me and all that. You don't let it bother you. After after a while, you kind of just joke about it. I even mess with them a little bit. Let me stand next to this old. So you just got to find different ways, either making light of it or just ignoring it completely.
Yeah.
Just going
Goes to the gym.
And you work out.
He's
a lot.
Getting it out at the gym.
But I mean, you still got the dichotomy in the gym. You don't want to run up on somebody too much, what I'm saying, waiting on a machine, or they're looking at you like, oh, here's this guy that works out and he's standing too close.
Yeah.
So you still got that in there. But yeah, working out definitely takes you away from all that, and it's just kind of you in the gym.
How about you, Aaron? The emotional, mental, spiritual state of Black men in this country, and how do you manage?
Yeah, it's about kind of finding your ways to cope with what's going on, and whether that's being like finding actual tasks to do, like me, like I'm definitely I don't know what to call it, but I stream all the things that I could possibly stream that have nothing to do with any of this. I'll watch movies and TV shows that are completely not on any of these topics, comedy or whatever, action films that are not related to any of this, anything. And also just not fully engaging, because it's so easy to, like, everything that you watch on your Twitter timeline or your Facebook news feed, like, you could let yourself be inundated with that on an all day 24-hour basis, but that is oftentimes not healthy for us. But at the same time, because we're complicated, it is also good to talk about it with people, like we're doing right now, where we're able to kind of express the genuine feelings that we have, and the frustrations and the anxieties, or with a professional as well, so that we can name and to some extent understand what we're feeling and how normal it is to feel these ways. And I think that that's probably, you know, one of the more important things too, is that it's normal. So two quotes come to mind, and one is by Zora Neale Hurston, and she says that, you know, if you're silent about your pain, they'll kill you and say that you enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we don't talk about how frustrating and painful all of this is, you know, there are no there are not as many or not enough history books that tell about how what this does to us.
Right, right.
Or there are not enough spaces where we can talk about what this does to us. And then the other quote that I think of, and I forgot who said it, but it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a maladjusted society.
I love that one.
And so it is normal for us to be frustrated, for us to be hurt, for us to have trauma related to all of this, because our society, this is not the way it's supposed to be.
At all.
And you know, if we say nothing, do nothing, treat it like oh, it's just a normal day. Let's, you know, just, you know, try to move on and not talk about. Let's not see color. Let's, you know, do all these things that ignore what's going on. You know, that leaves it open for it to continue, for us to fester inside, and for nothing good to come out of it. You know, so.
I feel like it's a fine line of, like, you want to be able to consume the information, be aware of it, but you also have to be really careful about your energy and your space and what you allow in. Right, and, you know, it's a fine line. How about you, Dad? How do you see Black men dealing with what's going on emotionally, mentally, psychologically, physically?
Well, speaking for myself, I've learned over the years that I have to be better than everybody in order for me to succeed. Mm-hmm. I've felt that for, gosh, since very, very early on. It didn't really hit me until I got into the real world and had to start making my own living. And early on in my retail experience, I saw guys, you know, that were, you know, working with me, get promoted before me. And I knew I was way better than them, you know, and it really got to me. And it just got to a point where, you know, I kind of examined myself too. You know, why are they getting these promotions, and why am I still lagging back? You know, so I just felt that I had to be better. I felt that I had to do the things that other people would not want to do, but I would do them, and I would do them damn good, damn well, you know. And then I discovered that I had real value, you know, and I made my superiors look at me, you know, to the point that they could not deny me. And even as I got promoted and I, you know, moved here to St. Louis, and I ran, you know, some stores, there were still a lot of bows and arrows aiming toward me, you know. But I always kept in the back of my mind that, you know, I just got to be better than everybody else. I got to go to work every day. I got to be professional. And when I say professional, I do mean professional, but without losing any of my Blackness. Okay? I will never sell out. I'm going to be who I am, you know, but I also know how to present myself in public. Okay? And as years went on, I just got better and better, and I continue to learn. Even to this day, I feel like I can learn from someone that just walked in the door on their first day. You know, so I'll never think that I can't, I'll never think that I know everything, because I don't.
Yeah.
I kind of came up the ranks the hard way,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm glad I went through those experiences, because they made me basically what I am today. You know, um, there are times, like Jacoby said, the moment you walk out the door, actually, it starts earlier for me. It starts when I'm getting dressed and I'm in the mirror in the morning
Mm-hmm.
about to go to work. know, I ask myself, what are you going to do today? What are you going to accomplish today? Whose life are you going to impact today? Who are you going to make happy today? And then you end up saying, I'm ready to go out there and kill it. So it's a mindset. And once I get to work, there are times before I even go to work, I actually say a prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I ask God to order my steps. Give me the right words to influence, my team. What do I want to get accomplished today? What deadlines do I need to meet? So maybe that's part of the spiritual part for me,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of ties into the emotional part of it all. And usually at the end of the day, I feel good about myself. I walk away with my head up. I did my very best. Will I make mistakes? Sure, I'll make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. But we go in there, we roll our sleeves up, and we work hard. We represent ourselves. We represent our family. We represent God, right? And we walk out of there and go home with our heads held high, and hopefully, you'll get a good night's sleep, and you'll wake up and do the whole thing all over again.
Yep. Yeah.
There you go.
Do you guys have any thoughts on that experience of like having to be better than? How's that happened or looked and manifested in your life, Aaron?
Yeah, every day. And you it's so funny because like I feel like I have spent a lot of time trying to be my best, to the point where I probably have done things that I probably didn't have to do, but I felt like I had to do it in order to get where I wanted to go. Maybe I could have gotten similar jobs, but not had a master's degree, and could have because I feel like I was capable. It isn't that the degree automatically suddenly gives me all the skills that I need to be successful. When I got a doctorate, it didn't magically, as soon as I signed that last paper, that was the end of it, and I suddenly have all these magical things that I didn't have before. It was mostly the time. It was mostly me doing the introspection. It was me honing my skills, getting more information myself, and putting it together in a way that was legible and understandable by other folks. But I felt like I had to do all of those things and more, to get where I am. And I look at other people, literally, I'm trying to temper my words somewhat. I feel like I encounter lots of people that didn't have to do the same kind of work that I had to do to get here. And I don't know all 100% of their journey or 100% of what they had to do, but I know that aside from just the work, there's extra work, the extra work that we have to do. Some people call it the black tax, that we have to do extra. We have to do more. We have to be exceptional. We can't have any inkling of a ghetto mentality, or like there are aspects of being black that you can't bring up to the top with you. or you know, or any inkling that you could be a part of that. And I'm black. I'm very black, and I don't deny any part of myself, but I think I take extra, you know, an extra bit of time to say, well, I'm not a fan of watermelon. Like
Right.
I'm not that kind of black, you
Right.
know. And real or imagined, you know, I feel like there are instances where I need to try people out before I let them know my full
Oh yeah.
self, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I say all that to say that I still I'm authentic and I'm true in you know when I'm in my workspace, but I think I think it's part of me protecting that. Like I want to protect that part of me for the people that I want
Right.
to experience that with.
Yeah.
You know, not that I couldn't excel if I brought that to work with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's complicated. Like I think a lot about it all the time, especially now.
Yeah. How about you, Kobe? How about that concept? Especially, I know us having been in business, the idea of being a Black-owned business has been interesting.
Yeah, it's real interesting. I deal with it every single day. But I mean, just to speak specifically, like on the business part, you kind of, I just find myself, you kind of have to tiptoe that line of, okay, I'm professional and know what I'm doing, but I'm also black. You know what I'm saying? And I'm, you know, black as hell. So it's
Blackity black.
Right.
how much do I let that seep through, and how is that going to affect their perception of me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then if I don't let some of it seep through, am I a quote unquote sellout?
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of always worrying about that, you know, and then just, you know, even just down to appearance, you know, like me being on here, like I was just even thinking, like just a real life situation. I was even thinking, should I put my hat backwards?
Right.
Is that off to, you know what I'm saying? My goodness, is that going to decrease what you might perceive my intellect is?
Right.
Backwards, and I got a teddy bear, and I got glasses on. I look like the teddy bear on my shirt.
Right.
So it's stuff like that every day. Just everything. Just how I talk to people, who, you know, who I'm talking to. I feel like I gotta switch it up and make sure I'm not too much of this or too much of that. You know, just, you know, that constant trying to just find that balance to where you're on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
And not on one side too much. So
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
How about you, Denai, from coming, especially from having come here at a later age? What's it been like for you, that idea of having to be better than, or have you experienced that?
Yes. I think when I think of this question, I definitely feel like one thing I definitely also observed is this aspect of like American lifestyle is different in a way where people in America have a very individualistic mindset. So it's about me. Like I wanna do this, I wanna do that, and it's across that I've noticed. And so understanding, I think, so the way I look at it is like it's like a game. Understanding the game and being able to play the game is, I guess, a key concept for me. So I think what a couple of things I resonated with, Ricky definitely touched on a lot of it, kept it very real in terms of like presentation. I have, so I'm a young professional just getting into the working industry, working world, and knowing that like I definitely have to show myself up in these spaces, um, not as a student, but a professional, what a professional looks like, right? What does professionalism look like? Dressing up, literally just dressing up in slacks and button ups, and and that all that is really coming from a place of like, for me, it's taking myself seriously so that others can take me seriously, whether it's my supervisor or like the students that I work with, so that they don't just look at me as like, oh, he's just a recent grad or whatever it is, right? Like, and also being one of the only Black counselors on your team, having to constantly be that like show yourself in a way where you could be accepted in your opinions, your knowledge, a lot of your contributions are like to
Valued.
show that they're valuable, but also they're serious. They're coming from like a legitimate place, right?
Yeah.
And so presentation is definitely one of it. And then for me, just in terms of keeping, I guess, my mental health is really taking like I'm distant from social media. I watch who I follow, what kind of news I consume, and how much time I even spend on social media. So I'm always trying to keep myself occupied with literally anything, whether it's cleaning or like doing whatever it is, right? So just keep myself busy and not really get consumed by this like um these platforms that exist to really keep, I think, people away from being their best selves, right? To start looking, there's just so much influence out there in the world
Yeah.
that we consume on a daily basis that it can alter your reality. So I try to push away from that. And the other thing is also understanding my purpose, my sense of purpose, why I'm doing what I'm doing, to keep me in check, so that I'm not really thinking of like trying to be better
Mm-hmm.
than anyone else, really, but really so that I can be better for whatever reason that I'm doing what I'm doing for.
Yeah.
Right. So my particular case is really trying to be better for the students that I work with, because that is who I have in my best interest, because that's the sole reason why I'm doing what I do is for the students. And so making sure that I cater to them and not really look at what I'm doing being impacted or looked at by whether it's my supervisor or anybody else that works with me. Um, and then faith and belief, right? So being faithful that and believing that I'm doing what I'm called to do,
Mm-hmm.
which goes into my sense of purpose, really trying to understand like why I'm here. I mean, I ask myself these questions a lot as to like why me, right? Like why me out of all my childhood friends to be the one in America who gets to experience like so much of this
Mm-hmm.
reality that I'm currently in, to be able to own a car, to be able to live by myself, like a lot of these different things that a lot of my peers growing up don't have at the
Right.
moment, right? And so I ask like, why me? Why is all this happening? So trying to get my full understanding of why I do what I do and why I'm in the place that I'm at. Um, yeah, so just trying to focus on what I could do to make a difference, not only in my life, in my personal life, my family's life, but also trying to impact the greater community.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but one thing that came to me, I think, I've been asked this question once, and I it thought it was really deep. Someone asked like, "What do you fear?" Right? Like, do you
Mm-hmm.
have a fear of success or a fear of failure?
Mm-hmm.
And to tie this all in, I think for me, the first thing that came to mind is like, I think I have a fear of success,
Of course. Yeah.
but
I think a lot
but
of us do.
yeah, and that's in a way of like thinking of it in a context of being black and
Mm-hmm.
successful, and also knowing the things that I stand for, the things that I believe in, and really thinking about the impact and the change that I could potentially bring forward or implement. Someone else ain't gonna like it because it's
Yeah.
changing their structure, their system. And seeing like, honestly, I think of Nipsey, like this man was doing incredible things,
Yeah.
and not really having a full closure as to, like, he's been in the gangs for so long that he didn't get shot through those moments, but when he's doing big things, his entrepreneurial moves, he's making big moves, and then all of a sudden he gets
Yeah.
taken out, and it's staged and it's all this, and I don't know, that's, I guess, like my inside thinking of like what they're really capable of, right? Like the possibilities and the power that others hold over us. I feel like they have such a huge head start in terms of being able to accomplish a lot of things, even systemically,
Mm-hmm.
that they can easily just block us off from getting where we need to go, because
Access.
it
Yeah.
could it could be interfering with their goal, their plan, whatever their mission is. So yeah, these are the things that I think of when asked this question. it's scary, it is the uncertainty of it, and knowing the image that we have in the world, and also knowing like like what we're capable of.
Yeah. And our responsibility for it, that having to bear that
Right.
responsibility. It's not just me. It's never just
Kinda
about
heavy.
me. I'm never
You're
just
representing
representing
your whole
myself.
race.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
a lot. It's kind of heavy.
We're switching gears just a little bit. I'm gonna let
Yeah.
Daphne ask the next question.
Does today's social and political climate impact your social life or your dating life as far as having friends or girlfriends outside your race? Talk to us about that.
Anybody?
Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
I live in a part of St. Louis that's called it's St. Charles County. I live right across the Missouri River from where, the main part of St. Louis is. I'm on the outer skirts. And this county, St. Charles County, is a red county. You guys see where I'm going. It's a heavily Republican county. And I've got some neighbors, and they're wonderful people. They're awesome. They're some of the best neighbors we've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And just yesterday, now we'll preface this by saying we were social distancing, okay? But every Friday evening since all this COVID stuff has happened, about 4 different homes we get together on the driveway of this particular house. And we were there and we're talking, we're just yucking it up, just having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I definitely noticed, nobody wants to bring up politics.
Mm-mm.
Nobody wants to do that. But as Donna, my wife, and I, we came back home last night, we were just kind of, chatting that, man, they're probably all Republicans, And, because of the state of politics today, it's such a touchy, edgy subject, it could really pull out some raw emotions,
Mm-hmm.
And hey, I could be a part of that too,
Yeah.
But it's they're all around me.
Mm-hmm.
And we know it.
Mm-hmm.
Too.
Mm-hmm.
We feel you.
Yeah.
Where if you go to St. Louis, it's heavily Democrat. It's pretty obvious.
Right. Yeah.
If you go to St. Louis County, it's mainly Democratic. During the all the shutdown stuff, it seemed like every state in the union was shutting down, and Missouri was one of the last 10 states that was still open for business. And I was getting pretty upset about it. So much so, I got on the phone and I called the governor's office. I also called St. Charles County, their offices, and I just voiced my opinion, when I called the governor's office. Of course, you don't get the governor, you'll get their aides.
Right.
And I would just politely display my displeasure of what was going on. Basically, I asked them, how many more of us have to die before you shut this state down? And that's what I mean. We have to get involved, with our state and local governments, as well as the general election. The governor for Missouri, by the way, is Republican. And I'm sure he was playing into the Trump administration's goals of, staying open for the economy. I get all that, but that still does not mean I got to sit on my hands and not do anything. We can complain all day, all week, all month, all year. But until we do something about it, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
So just like sometimes I got a complainer where I work. And finally, instead of, I'll let him complain, but my response to him is now, what are you going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
I'll put the ball back in his court, and let him figure it out, until he decides to do something about it or just do it himself. He's still going to have those problems. But for me, no, I'm going to do something, calling, these officials, at least I let my voice be heard.
Yeah.
Okay. And I knew I was dealing with the Republican, apparatus, so to speak, when it came to the state of Missouri. So, of course, they finally shut it down. But man, it took so long, and there were so many people dying. Not that Missouri was a hot spot, but it was hot enough for me where I was concerned. Hey,
and it was Black people who were dying.
Exactly, Ryan. Exactly. I'm seeing these reports that, Black people were dying at an alarming rate as opposed to, white folks. Okay. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, they don't care nothing about Blacks. We can go ahead and die. We'll be sacrificed so they can get this economy going. Nobody cares about that. They don't care about us, but they care about that economy. And we're the ones that, have to sacrifice our lives. So no, I'm not going out like that. I go to work. For you guys that don't know, I run a men's clothing store, and my store is in a very affluent area of St. Louis County. So I get, you name it. Anyone that's anybody in St. Louis will probably end up in our store. And I look around at some of the clothing and I kind of joke about, this is nothing but Republican clothing. Because nobody's coming in here other than Republicans, And I wouldn't even buy some of this stuff. But I know my audience, and I know that they definitely bring in their white privilege with them. But again, I play the game, but I don't lose my Blackness. And, I kind of learned to coexist, but behind the scenes, I'm doing something about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just not going to sit there and just go, yeah, okay. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
No, I can't do that. And I hope you all think the same way.
Absolutely.
And then we got to get to them young ones, get them started early, so they can start getting involved and understand what's really going on in the world.
Sebastian's already all into politics.
He's got lots of opinions.
Yes. Thank you. Anybody else want to weigh in on that question about
social or dating life as in the modern era?
I'm out.
As a Black man, that's what you're asking?
Yes.
Wow, that's a very layered answer I can give. I don't know. Just obviously with social media and everything, it's different. It's definitely different. Kind of don't know what you're getting into. But the good thing that I do like about social media is you can kind of know a person before you know a person. You kind of know, because people, you get, especially now during the quarantine, people get bored, they'll expose themselves. So it does give you that preview, as much as it kind of hurts, kind of dating and how everything is, it helps to kind of get that preview on everybody and how everybody thinks and kind of where they stand. And then kind of like what Uncle Rick was saying, I stay away from, I have people who have different views than me, but I stay away from debates. That's the one thing I don't get into anymore. It's not even worth it. You know, I mean, I've had white people I'm cool with, but I know the moment we start talking politics, I'm done with you because I already know what you believe in. So I just kind of keep politics, and like you were saying, keep politics out of stuff. You believe in what you believe in. I believe in what I believe in. Our conversation isn't going to change anything. It's about action anyway. So yeah, it's definitely different out here compared to maybe 5-10 years ago. So.
Yeah, thanks.
Denai, sound like you want to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I would actually agree with Jacoby as well on this. I choose not to engage in political conversations for many reasons. I'm not too knowledgeable because I don't follow along too much with it. Because I mean, I have my own thoughts and opinions about politics. But in terms of like the whole dating and all that situation, I think it's interesting to that it's a interesting question to start off with.
So we're gonna do a few episodes about dating, so you'll be back.
Oh man, yeah. For me, I think in terms of this question, what I have down is that the family pushback versus my own personal beliefs in terms of what I'm looking for, right? So I think is just understanding what I want and what I'm looking for, which I think a lot of it, whether race, color is involved or not, I think the first thing for me is just trust someone I could trust, right? Like which is a big deal, which kind of defines the relationship. And so just knowing that that's something that I'm looking for, making that a priority, and whoever it may be is one, but also the climate and the conditions of Santa Cruz definitely does not give you options or exposure to
limited,
like-minded individuals, right? Like people that are like me, Black. And so yeah, these are a couple of things that I personally definitely battle when it comes to relationships or even finding someone is these aspects of like just finding someone loyal, because also like that language is different now, right? Like relationships are like I think they're different now, and how society views it, with social media definitely being a huge impact. There's just so read that being redefined, and also knowing like what I value and what I want, and seeking that has been interesting in this political climate. Or
I don't think I'd want to be out dating right about now. How about you, Aaron? What do you have? Any thoughts on that?
On kind of the social aspect, I have no problem doing away with people whose views, don't vie with mine. They can go. Particularly, when I learn about people that I know, like, on Facebook or, on social media, like I'm fine with, you've expressed some views that that we do not tolerate here on air.
Unfriend.
Goodbye. And I'm perfectly okay with that. Now, in person, if we were interacting and we have a discussion, I'm not going to debate my views. Per se, like I'm going to present you with evidence about how your views, you may be missing a particular perspective, and if you can't respect my perspective, then I don't respect us continuing as friends. And I think my job is a little, funny enough, like my job is probably the easiest place where political conversations can happen, because it is literally my job to work with Black people. So if I bring up, an inequity or a disparity, that is literally my job to do that, and to advocate on behalf of particular folks. So I actually have a lot of fun doing that. Oh, is there a problem? Is
there a problem here?
This is my job. This is my job to do.
Love
it's
it.
so fun to give folks that reminder and to, do presentations and to, have email exchanges. Donna knows what I'm talking about. And so that's fun and fine. But on the last question about the dating piece, it's a complicated question, and I'm glad that y'all are going to talk about that more in future. Don't invite me back. I don't need to be there for that. But what I will say is that I have preferences, and like Donna said, like we have a dearth of that. We don't have very much of that here in Santa Cruz. I am open, to other things because I think that love is love, and who you become attracted to is based on a lot of things, and a lot of times you may not even have control over that. Now, where the complications come is if your political views or perspectives do not mesh well, and then you try to force things to stay together because of being attracted in other realms.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're, you like the way the person looks, or, you like that they're maybe funny, and you'll ignore these other huge red flags. I don't think that's a good idea, and that's not in the long run going to be healthy for you or the other aspects of the relationship that will come into it, their friends, their family. If you have children with these people, that then complicates how you raise those children. And so I think that it's deeper than just like the racial and ethnic differences. It's about perspective. It's about political views. It's about what you feel is important and what you value in the world. And if you don't value Black bodies, other than in the
right.
conversation of what you can do with that Black body,
right.
like, right. If that's where it ends, if that's where your protection of the Black body ends, then not gonna work.
Definitely. I'm wholeheartly on page with that one.
What you got to think about if you're dating. I mean, I was
being very vague. I personally would potentially be open to dating someone outside my race, but if they, if they are a diehard, if they're a Trump supporter, it's not gonna work.
Right. Not gonna fly.
So,
fact.
Yeah, let me be clear. I do speak. It's the English major in me. Subtext.
So, I just want to ask: is there anything as we close that you guys want to add, or think people should know, or think people need to hear, as it relates to sort of the state of Black men in this country? For you as an individual, emotionally, mentally, physically, and more importantly, like, what do you think Black men need? What do they need from us as a society, us as women who love and are raising Black men? What would you guys like to see? I know that's a lot of questions, but any thoughts on any of those responses?
Oh, hey, Rick, you the OG here.
Wow. It's easy to say respect, but respect is earned, and we have to earn it. Wow, that's a loaded question.
Yeah,
it really is.
I'm just gonna lay it right there. Just say respect. Yeah. But of course, we're not going to get that respect if we don't, put the right foot forward, to earn that respect. Okay. We have to continue, and I've said this like 3 times now. We got to touch some young ones. Yeah. We got to get that generation off to the right foot, or on the right foot. I don't want to say it's too late for, you know, the current generation. I forget what generation.
We're at right now.
Yeah,
Z,
but
X, Y, millennials, whatever.
Millennials.
you go to let's say you go to a public high school today, all right, and you walk those halls in between breaks or after school or maybe even before school. What are you going to see? You know, you're going to see the sagging. You know, you're going to see all kinds of stuff, you know, that you may not want to see. And the question to me is it too late? For some, probably not too late. Then there's some people are just lost, you know, and the hopes is that they can be corralled, you know, by an elder or even a teacher or someone that has a lot of influence on them that can lead them in the right direction, you know, because number one, we got to stop killing ourselves, each other, you know, that has to stop. But if we grab those young children and stay on top of them, I think we can change the perception of who we are. That's it.
Yeah. Thank you. Denai, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. I guess something that I've been reflecting on myself is I think, yeah, so one thing I've come to realize is that we're all different, right? Like, there's not, even if you're twins, you won't be the same. And so knowing that, I think one thing I would say is I would encourage everyone to understand and to actually intentionally try to learn and understand our differences, all of humanity. And I think with that, I feel like we can go closer towards pushing away from stereotypes to actually humanizing folks and understanding the real, you know, the person behind whatever your image is of this person. And so I would definitely encourage people. And also I know it's hard, right? Like there's so many walls and barriers that do exist that we have to put up, especially as Black men. But I feel to engage more in these kinds of conversations and to work to understand ourselves, to understand our differences. So yeah, owning our story and actually being okay with that and being comfortable with our story and not feeling bad or guilty for the experiences that we've lived or went through, but really to think further into the future and see your contribution and the value you bring to this world as a person.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. How about you, Jacoby?
Kind of to echo some of that, I think what we need, I think, is more understanding. I think we're highly misunderstood, just because as Black men we're put in the box, so we're expected to be this one thing, this or this. For some reason we can't be multiple things at one time for whatever reason. So just understanding from everybody, to kind of understand what we do, how we operate, what we think. So the things that are being perceived as a threat or wrong, or, you know, whatever people are perceiving it as, they'll actually see it from our perspective and say, okay, all right, we're not as threatening as everybody seems to think we are. And it's as far as what I would just, you know, tell, you know, Black men and people, number one, feel okay talking about this stuff with other Black men. I know we don't do that a lot. We kind of just skate past it. It's just life to us. But I think we do need to talk about it more, how we feel about it. Because I think a lot of us are suffering from trauma from a lot of stuff that's continuously going on. And we don't talk about it, and it spills over into other parts of our lives. And then, you know, you look crazy and nobody knows where all this is really coming from. Understand that you are valuable, but you have to show people that you're valuable. People aren't just going to think you're valuable. You have to actually show it and present yourself in a way that shows value. And then understand that lastly, understand that unfortunately, one represents all and all represents one. So when we're out here in these streets in front of other people, you got to understand that whatever you do is going to affect the next Black man. So if you're not acting a certain way, you're fulfilling a stereotype, it's going to be hard to expect that person not to then push that stereotype on the next Black man. So we all have to be accountable for each other and realize if we want to push things forward, we gotta move in unison and act in unison. That's about it.
Very nice. I like that.
Yeah,
Dr.
definitely.
Jones.
I was definitely gonna say some similar things, but in just 4 quick points. Number one is to seek help. That we feel that we need to be super strong and we need to be able to accomplish everything only on our own, only on the strength of our own muscles, whether that be mental muscles or our physical muscles. But we need to seek help and support from other folks, and professional help too, like talking to a counselor or psychologist. We need to dismantle this stigma as as Black men, that we don't need to seek, or as Black people in general, that we don't need to seek professional help, and we do, and we need to talk to people that yes, the priority would be someone else Black who can understand this, but sometimes we just need to talk to somebody and get it out, and to talk through some of these things, and so that we can gain some self-understanding. The second thing is very similar to something that was already mentioned, but we need to connect with other Black men. We need to have more spaces like these where we talk about how we're feeling and what we need to do and how we can help each other. And that's peer mentors, like people that are, doing things that are similar to us, and also people that are older, and also be mentors to other young men, so that they can have a model and of what this can look like and what this should be. The third thing is to respect and love other Black people. And that's inclusive of self too. We have to respect and love ourselves. And also we need to respect and love other Black men. We need to respect and love Black women. We need to respect and love, LGBTQ people within our Black community, because we get a lot of support, but also we're not giving it back. And if we really want to be strong and continue, we need to be in community together and be more united by giving that love, like reciprocating the love that we get. And then the last thing is to educate ourselves, to read. I think that I have myself gotten a lot and gotten very far because I take the time to read a book, and not read an article online, not to read a thread of tweets, to read actual books, to attain knowledge about myself, about other people that are like me, that are about other perspectives, that are about ways to be a leader. Just there are so many things that are out, so much knowledge that's out there that could be useful to us that we don't get by not reading. So those are my points.
All of that. Yeah. Education. And, our goal, I think, is as a part of this podcast as Black Bodies, is to hopefully inspire more of these communications, more of these conversations and discussions around what's going on for people in a more thoughtful manner than I feel like what's represented out there. What I see often out in the media is not necessarily what I feel like represents me and who I know and the people that I see on a regular basis, the intelligent, capable, well thought out, intentional, capable people that I see. And I want to have more of those people engage in conversations and about solutions and how do we engage the younger community that's out there. And, we're raising a young man who's 12, and, I want him to see men like you because if he's left up to the world, that's not what he's going to see. And that frightens me because, we know that you all are out there and a lot more of you than we probably get to see.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Did you have any final comments or thoughts that you wanted to add to the conversation, or any other questions you didn't get a chance to ask?
I just wanted to thank you all for participating in the podcast today, and it was very enlightening for me, and So I think we can grow from this knowledge as well.
Very helpful.
So thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us on the Black Bodies podcast. Please be sure to subscribe below, hit the like button, and share it with your friends and family, because each week we drop a new episode.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/black-bodies and on Instagram and YouTube at Black Bodies Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to catch every new episode and leave us a review, a comment, or suggestions for our next show. Email questions to ourblackbodies@gmail.com. That's our, O-U-R, blackbodies@gmail.com. We will post the links below.
And we would love to promote your Black-owned business, so please email us for some more information. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Daphne.
And remember,
check on your people.